My name is Ethan. I'm 27, and until recently, I thought I had everything figured out: a good job, a gorgeous fiancée named Emily, and a future that felt secure, but that all fell apart the night I came across a Reddit post that seemed a little too familiar. I never thought a simple Reddit post could ruin my entire life. But here I am, drowning in a storm I never saw coming. As I sat in the living room, relaxing after a long day at work, Emily was in the bedroom, likely scrolling through TikTok or texting her sister. I had a habit of aimlessly browsing Reddit, bouncing from r/amythiashol to r/askreddit, just the typical fare to kill time, until I came across a post on r/true off my chest that made my stomach drop. My spine tingled just reading the title. I've been living a double life, and my fiancé has no idea. I clicked on it out of curiosity, and as I read it, my hands began to shake. The post was written by a 25-year-old woman who described how she had been engaged to her boyfriend for 2 years, but that she had been keeping a sinister secret from him. She also mentioned how she had been in love with another man for the same amount of time, meeting up with him, sleeping with him, and making excuses to her fiancé so she could go out on the weekends. The worst part? She acknowledged that she felt bad, but not bad enough to quit. She was caught between the two men, addicted to the excitement of her affair, and scared of losing the security of her steady relationship. I initially convinced myself that I was being overly suspicious because, after all, there are millions of posts just like this. The fact that it sounded familiar didn't necessarily imply it was about me, but as I read the details, I realized that her description of her fiancé, hardworking, somewhat unaware, and always trusting, was too detailed. Then, she said something that caused my vision to blur. He works in finance, so he's always busy, which gives me time to sneak away without him noticing. I work in finance, and even though my stomach was in knots and my mind was racing, that wasn't enough to prove it was Emily, was it? There are many males in the finance industry, but she brought up the engagement ring. He proposed to me 2 years ago with the most beautiful ring, a sapphire center stone, because he knew I always wanted something different from the traditional diamond. My heart stopped beating. Since I knew Emily didn't want a diamond, I went out of my way to acquire the ideal deep blue sapphire, the same sapphire she talked about to everyone, and spent months crafting the ring and researching gemstones to make sure it was ideal for her. She was the one. I sat motionless, reading the message repeatedly in the hopes that I had misinterpreted it or that I was making assumptions, but the more I read, the more I recognize that there was no doubting it. For 2 years, Emily had been unfaithful to me. My hands felt numb, my chest felt hollow, and I could hear the TV playing in the distance, but it felt like I wasn't even in my own body anymore. I couldn't tell how long I sat there, staring at the television. Then, from the bedroom, I heard Emily's voice. "Are you going to bed, baby?" Her tone was gentle and informal, as though nothing had happened to my world. "Yeah, I'll be there in a sec," I said, trying to make my voice sound normal as I swallowed hard. I wanted to take a break and think, but more than anything else, I needed to figure out what in the world I was going to do next. That night, everything in my life changed. I didn't get much sleep that night, and even though my body was worn out, my thoughts wouldn't stop. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's face, laughing, kissing, and declaring her love for me, despite the fact that she had been deceiving me for years. I had a plan by morning, but I wasn't going to confront her just yet. I needed proof, indisputable proof, that she couldn't manipulate or twist. I'd read enough horror stories on Reddit about cheaters who gaslight their partners and distort reality to the point where the betrayed person begins to doubt their own sanity. So that wasn't me. Over the course of the following few days, I gathered information. I started by looking at our shared phone plan, since Emily and I had been together long enough to be on the same account. I was able to access her call history in less than 5 minutes. The scene I witnessed made my stomach turn. Frequent texts to an unsaved number, sometimes lasting hours, and late-night calls that always occurred when I was out with friends or working late, with timestamps that matched too precisely, like clockwork. I copied the number and quickly searched but found nothing. It wasn't publicly listed, but I wasn't going to stop there. The guilt of violating her privacy should have been eating at me, but it wasn't given what I had read and what I knew she was doing. I put a tracker on my laptop that recorded keystrokes so I could see if she was texting him online. Even when she smiled at me as if nothing had changed, I maintained a neutral expression on my face as I acted. Normally, kissed her goodbye in the mornings and listened to her stories about her job. On the inside, though, I was screaming. Then there was a pause. I opened my laptop and looked at the keystroke tracker one evening when Emily was taking a shower. It was there. I was horrified by a thread of messages from her Instagram direct messages, even though I didn't recognize the identity. Emily, I can't continue to tell lies like this. Him, then don't. Emily, you understand that it's not that easy. Him, it is. Leave him if you truly love me. Emily, I can't just toss everything away. I need more time. Him, you always say that. She wasn't just sleeping with this guy. She was in love with him, or at least she believed she was, and I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails pierced into my palms. Then, like a train, the next message arrived. He asked if he would still be attending this weekend. Emily, he believes I'm going to see my sister. My chest clenched, my breathing became shallow, and I felt a surge of anger. I had been planning a future with this woman for years, yet she had been skulking away with someone else and lying right in front of me. I was unable to remain silent any longer. I tested the waters that night while we were lying in bed. Hey, I said nonchalantly, what time are you going to your sister's this weekend? Emily looked to me with a gentle grin and said, probably Friday afternoon. I want to beat traffic. Without even flinching. False. I yawned and nodded, saying, that sounds good. Tell her I said hello. Unaware that I knew, that I had evidence, and that I was going to ruin the idyllic little world she believed she had, she leaned over and kissed my cheek. That night, instead of sleeping at all, I made plans. Did she wish to spend the weekend away? Ideally, let her go, give her a sense of security, and let her believe she got away with it. Because she wouldn't have a fiancé waiting for her when she returned, as if she weren't consciously preparing to cheat on me this weekend. Emily hummed as she made her coffee, browsed through her phone, and kissed my cheek as I watched her move about the kitchen the following morning. I required patience since the ideal retaliation wasn't about reacting, but rather about planning, and it took everything I had to keep my face calm and contain my feelings of hatred and betrayal. Remember to send me photos from your sisters, I added nonchalantly as I stirred my coffee. Emily said, of course, without even looking up. You know how she loves to take selfies, so I'll probably be stuck in 1,000 of them, she said. False. She was unaware that I already knew her game, so I forced myself not to snicker. I tried to be as regular as I could for the following 2 days, even helping her pack and making small remarks like, are you sure you don't want to bring that sweater? It could get cold. Feigning to be the devoted but ignorant fiancé, she was beaming by Friday morning and put her arms around my neck, promising to phone me when she arrived. I gave her a forehead kiss and muttered, drive carefully, feeling nothing but icy rage beneath my skin. I started working the minute she left the house. We weren't very close, but we got along well enough. I contacted Emily's sister first. Hey, quick question, I began. Emily made it to your apartment, right? Then there was a pause. What? She won't be visiting this weekend. Boom! I thanked her, hung up, and took a seat back to allow my anger to subside into something more rational. Emily's call logs had given me the man's number, so I conducted a reverse search and found his name. Ryan, I didn't recognize him, but that didn't matter since he was going to be a part of a nightmare he wasn't prepared for. I started emailing screenshots of everything I had, including her texts, the call logs, the Reddit post, and every piece of proof I had. I started by sending a brief and straightforward note to her family. Hey, I wanted you all to see this before I make any final decisions. I've just found out Emily has been cheating on me for 2 years. Attached are the messages, logs, and proof. I won't be marrying her. After that, I forwarded it to our mutual acquaintances, some of whom had known Emily for a longer period of time than I had, but I didn't mind because they had a right to know her true identity. Finally, with one more note, I forwarded everything to Emily herself. Don't bother coming home. Your stuff will be waiting outside. Without waiting for an answer, I blocked her Instagram, her number, and everything else. Subsequently, I gathered all of her possessions, including every article of clothing, framed photo, and foolish memento we had amassed, and disposed of them in garbage bags outside the door. It would be too late by the time she recognized what had happened. And me? I would be at liberty. Emily had been gone for hours by the time she saw my message, most likely around Ryan, and was totally unaware of the chaos I had caused. I pictured her stomach dropping, her hands shaking as she scrolled through the screenshots, and the realization that she had just lost everything in a matter of seconds as her phone buzzed, and she opened the message to see her secrets revealed in black and white. She made numerous attempts to contact, of course. Closed, the texts then began. Emily, please allow me to explain, Ethan. Emily, I truly apologize. I never intended to cause you any harm. Emily, please give me a call. Then the rage struck. Emily, how did you accomplish this? How could you make me feel so ashamed? Emily, you ruined everything, even though we could have resolved this. Emily, respond to me. I didn't. I watched from the couch as her messages continued to come in, each one more urgent than the one before, but I felt nothing, just a strange sense of peace instead of regret or despair. The actual mayhem started the following morning. The first person to phone me was her sister, who said, Ethan, what the heck is going on? Emily has been ranting on my phone, weeping, and claiming that you expelled her. I stated bluntly, I sent you the proof and you are fully aware of what is happening. After a long period of silence, she sighed and then said, Yeah, I saw. I'm not justifying her. What she did was messed up. But you honestly emailed it to everyone? I remarked, She didn't care about making me look bad, so why should I shield her? She didn't respond. A few friends who shared a common interest also got in touch. Some offered encouragement, saying things like, You deserve better, man, while others attempted to act as peacekeepers by suggesting things like, Maybe you guys should talk? Speak? Nothing else could be said. Then Emily appeared. My heart didn't even race when I heard a knock on the door in the late afternoon, since I knew it was her. She said, Ethan, please let me in. Let me explain. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her eyeliner was ruined, and she looked absolutely destroyed as I just opened the door enough to see her tear-streaked face. Well, I glanced toward the garbage bags that were still undisturbed and sitting by the door. There's nothing to explain, I stated coolly. Your stuff's right there. I made a mistake. I was scared. I love you, Ethan. I chose you, she said, her face contorted in anguish. I laughed bitterly. You choose me? I actually sent you those messages while you were in his bed. It wasn't like that, she said, flinching as shame flashed across her face. Then, Emily, how was it? Because from where I'm standing, you played me for 2 years. You lied. You cheated. And you let me plan a future with you while you were screwing another guy behind my back? I yelled, my rage finally erupting. I was going to stop, I swear, she said, tears streaming down her face. I interrupted her by holding up a hand and said, I don't care, in a cool, decisive tone. I don't love you anymore, and I don't even know who you are. She wrinkled her face and said, Ethan, please? I closed the door in front of her. I didn't open the door again, even though her sobs could be heard echoing down the corridor. This was finished. The days before the weekend were unreal, and every time Emily kissed me or said I love you, it felt like a cruel joke. She was unaware that I knew, and I had already made up my mind how this would end. I did my part. I continued to cook with her, watch Netflix on the couch, and laugh when she told me about her day. But on the inside, I was calculating, chilly, and waiting for the right opportunity. She packed her luggage on Friday morning, bringing with her clothing, makeup, and a book she had probably never read. I felt terrible watching her because I knew she was getting ready to spend the weekend with another man while I sat at home looking foolish. Are you looking forward to seeing your sister? I inquired, speaking softly. Yeah, it will be nice to catch up, she said with a smile, totally relaxed. False. Unaware that this would be the last time she would ever see me in this state, I approached her, put my arms around her, and kissed the top of her head. I felt her relax into me. I whispered, You deserve a fun weekend, free from worries and stress. Ethan, you're the best, she said with a joyful sigh. I know, I said with a smile. I watched from the window as she drove away, the car vanishing down the street, and as soon as she was gone, I went to work, She kissed me goodbye and said she would text me when she arrived. The performance I called her sister first. I wasted no time in saying, "Hey, just a quick question, did Emily make it to your place?" After a moment of silence, there was bewilderment. What? She won't be coming this weekend, sorry. That's what I thought, I said, feeling a nasty sense of satisfaction settle in my chest. Before she could ask any more questions, I thanked her and hung up. I then took out my laptop and collected all of the proof I had, including screenshots of her communications, the Reddit post, phone logs, and the entire abhorrent reality. I sent a single comprehensive email to her parents, sister, and closest friends. Keeping it brief and straightforward, I just wanted you all to see the truth before I make any final decisions. Emily has been cheating on me for 2 years. Attached is the proof. There will be no wedding. I then forwarded the identical message to our pals. I didn't bother sugarcoating anything. She should have been exposed to them as well if she didn't mind lying to everyone. I sent it to Emily herself at last, along with one last note. Don't bother coming home. Your stuff will be waiting outside. I then blocked her on all platforms. I got up as soon as I hit send, got trash bags, and began packing. I didn't care if it was pricey, sentimental, or significant to her. She didn't respect me, so why should I respect her belongings? Every article of clothing, every framed photo, and every small item she left in our apartment went into the bags. All of her possessions were in garbage bags at the front door by the time the sun began to drop. With another man she wanted to go play house? Allow her to, because there wouldn't be a house waiting for her when she returned. The night went very slowly, but I wasn't pacing or second-guessing myself. Emily had already made her decisions, and I had finally made mine. There was nothing more to question or consider. My phone was exploding up by morning. The messages began as missed calls, then texts from mutual friends, then Emily's sister, and eventually Emily herself. I didn't bother checking straight away since I already knew what I would find. Initially, they were kind, cautious. "Emily, please give me a call, Ethan. I'm not sure what's going on." "Emily, could we talk?" I just received a lot of strange messages. "Emily, please don't cut me off like this. I love you." I disregarded them. Then, predictably, the panic struck. "What on earth is this, Emily? My family received this from you?" "Emily, answer me, Ethan." "Emily, my life is being ruined by you." Destroying her life? I laughed sourly because she had wrecked mine. Shortly after, my phone rang once more. Her name appeared on the screen, and I let it ring. 5 seconds later, it buzzed one more time, repeatedly. She was falling apart. I nearly felt terrible for her, but then I recalled how she had called me ignorant, laughed in her text to him, and stated that she needed more time to decide between us. At that point, the door began to bang. I had anticipated this, so I didn't even flinch. With a desperate tone, she said, "Ethan, open the door. Please, just talk to me." I didn't. Rather, I approached her gently, unlocked it, and slightly opened it to face her. Her hands were shaking. Her mascara was smudged, her hair was disheveled, and her face was red and splotchy from sobbing. She had most likely been driving back during a full-blown panic attack. Well, with beseeching eyes, she pleaded, "Ethan, please, I can explain." Unfazed, I leaned against the doorframe with my arms crossed and said, "Go ahead." In a chilly voice, explain. She swallowed hard and blinked, surprised, saying, "I never meant to hurt you. It wasn't what you think." "You never meant to hurt me?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. I said it again, "Emily, you lied to me for 2 years. You snuck around with someone else and planned a full future with me, and you never meant to hurt me?" I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted, she said, her lower lip quivering. I chuckled bitterly and answered, "No, you knew exactly what you wanted," adding, "You just wanted both of us, the thrill of him and the security of me." She recoiled, but she didn't deny it. She declared, "I swear I was going to end it. I was going to tell you, but I was scared." After giving her a long look, I shook my head and said, "You're only afraid now because you got caught." I retreated as she reached for me, causing her face to further collapse. With her voice quivering, she murmured, "Please, we can fix this. I love you, Ethan." I let out a steady breath and murmured, I no longer love you, Emily. And for the first time, it felt real. She let out a gasp, as if I had struck her. I didn't feel guilty. Your stuff's right there, I said, nodding toward the garbage bags on the porch. You're really doing this, she whispered, more to herself than to me, as her breath caught. I didn't need to say anything, so I didn't. Fresh tears welled up in her eyes, but she stopped arguing because she knew it was finished. She took a trembling breath, turned, and began slowly pulling the luggage in the direction of her car. I simply closed the door without observing her go. I remained there for a while, taking in the silence. I wasn't living a lie for the first time in 2 years. I was free for the first time in 2 years. Next up is part 555. Anata. Section 5 must be logically cohesive, consistent, and use natural language. Keep in mind that natural language is used by Native Americans. ChatGPT, Section 5. Proceeding, there was a deafening silence in the flat when Emily departed. There was no more lying, no more artificial grins, no more pretending, just nothingness. However, it wasn't a negative kind of emptiness, rather. It was the kind that indicated something had come to an end and something new was about to start. The initial days were odd. I kept expecting to hear her keys jingling at the door, hear her humming in the kitchen, and feel her body pressing against mine when I woke up. But each time I realized she wouldn't be returning, I felt lighter. Now that I understood the truth, I was free and had nothing more to doubt or second guess. Naturally, there was chaos in the aftermath. The response is I had no idea, Emily said when she phoned me a few days later. I mean, I knew something was off, but I never thought she was capable of this. Emily's family was in disarray, and her sister was upset with her. Her parents had always liked me and believed that I was the best thing that had ever happened to their daughter, so I heard through mutual acquaintances that they were distraught and not talking to her. I suppose they were mistaken. Some of our mutual friends attempted to get in touch with me, some to see how I was doing, and others to play the let's hear both sides game. I quickly shut that down since there were only two sides, right and wrong, and Emily had been making the wrong decision every day for 2 years. What about the man she threw everything away for, Ryan? He ran away. He did, of course. According to what I've heard, he stopped returning her calls and texts as soon as everything went south. The man who had been forcing her to leave me for 2 years didn't even have the grace to stay when she lost everything. I would like to say that I was taken aback, but really, I wasn't. She had nothing now since she had exchanged something tangible for something transient. It was not my burden to bear, but hers. The recovery initially, I was unsure of what to do with myself because I had spent so much time living a false life in a world that I was unaware was collapsing around me. However, when an unforeseen circumstance occurred, I once again began to love my life. I resumed my former activities, went to the gym more frequently, and spent time with friends without feeling obligated to check in with them. I became aware of how much of myself I had given up in that relationship and how much of my happiness I had foregone in order to ensure her satisfaction. And I had no intention of doing that ever again. Weeks later, I woke up one day and discovered that I had not given Emily a single thought the previous day, not her voice, not her face, not her falsehoods. I realized I had one at that point. For retaliation wasn't about hurting her, bringing her low, exposing her, or making her regret everything. Even though I'm sure she did, the real retaliation was on the way. And I did. I wasn't resentful or broken. I felt better. And that was the most significant triumph of all.